Another important source of writing British history are the surveys of that time. The Britishers believed that for good administration, one needs to know the land and its people properly. So, the first hand knowledge that they could get was through surveys. For example, in the villages, they started with revenue surveys. These revenue surveys dealt with topography of the land, soil, flora, fauna, local history, cropping pattern of that village. So, the revenue survey gave an insight into everything of the village, meaning to say that whatever was happening in the village, whatever was available in the village, that information was made available to the British officials by the revenue surveys. Now, to know the people more, they based their surveys on caste, religion and the occupations. Beside these surveys, to further get more knowledge about India, they did botanical surveys, they did geological surveys, they did archaeological surveys, they did anthropologist surveys and they did forest surveys. So, all these surveys together gave the British a fair knowledge of India, that is how to rule India, what are Indians, where do they live, what are their strengths and what are their weaknesses. And those surveys of that time are today's sources for writing history. When we talk of these official records, then these official records are in fact giving us the information of only the British view in India, that is the British officials in particular. But what about the views of the Indians of that time? How did they feel? What was happening? Did they feel that there were atrocities on them, there were sufferings? Because the British view was they were civilizing the uncivilized nation. So, in order to know the views of the Indians, their feelings, their happenings at that time, we have to rely on other sources, which are of course difficult to find. Those could be the diaries written by different people at that time. It could be the account written by the pilgrims or by the travelers. It could be the autobiographies and biographies written by people at that time. It could be the poems and writings of the reformers and the nationalists and the patriots, who clearly give us the vision of how India was suffering under the Britishers, what was happening at that time and what were the changes which were needed by Indians to live a decent life. Now, there is one more thing about this, and that is all these accounts were written by literate people, educated people. But what about the history of the illiterate tribal people, of the poor peasants, of the workers in the mines and the downtrodden, who didn't know how to read and write, who didn't account their life, who did not give any source to us. Therefore, this class 8th history textbook of yours is making little effort to read about the history of those people whose account is not available anywhere. And that's the end of your chapter. Thank you.